Now you're welcome. We have, I think, what's going to be a really interesting conversation for you today. Oisín Murphy is in studio. He has written a fantastic new book. It's called Sacrifice, A Year in the Life. I will hold it up for those of you watching. The year in question is 2024. So in effect, it's a diary, but he takes us to different parts of his life and little vignettes here and there. But ostensibly, it's a document or a diary of 2024. Oisín will be very familiar to you. I know he is from Killarney. He first sat on a pony at 3 years of age. He went to the UK as a teenager, and success came very young and has continued. He has matured into one of the greatest jockeys in the world. He is one of this country's most exceptional sports people. He operates in flat racing, the sport of kings, and he's still only 30, but has Group 1 winners all over the world to his name. He is 5 times the British champion jockey. 3 in a row, 19, 20, 21. There were bans from the sport which interrupted his run in 22 and 23. He reigned supreme again in 24, which again is the focus of this book. At the end of the book, he promises he needs a break from going for the championship, but deep down even he knows he's lying to himself, and he was, because in 2025 he has been dominant, 5 times now champion jockey. On page 1 of this book, Oisín describes himself as deeply flawed. As successful as he's been in the saddle, life is never straightforward, and there have been lows and mistakes along the way. So he's a fascinating person to talk to. Oisín Murphy, warm welcome to studio.
Joe, thank you very much for having me.
I described you there as amongst our greatest sportsmen and sportswomen. Do you see yourself in those terms?
No, absolutely not. Maybe one day if I can achieve a little bit more, it'd be nice to look back on the career and think I gave it my best shot and it was a successful time. But when you talk about greats, I think of Lester Piggott, Pat Edery, Kieran Fallon, Frankie Dettori.
You're not in that bracket yet?
No. Fallon won 6 championships and Edery won 11, I think. So
where do you need
to go?
Where do you need to pitch in at to feel satisfied with your career? If your career ended tomorrow, type thing.
Yeah, if my career ended tomorrow, I think my performances in the saddle have been okay. I've had good periods and I've given it everything I possibly could. I couldn't really have done any more from the opportunities I've been handed. But I know I've been very privileged, obviously, to be mainly injury-free. But obviously we'll go into detail as we speak, and I go into detail in the book. I've had many storms along the way.
Will you ride for as long as someone like Dettori?
No, I will not. That's a good question. The early part of my career, I focused on getting to 30, and I'm 30 years of age now, and I would say I'm in the last few chapters of my racing career.
Right. Why?
I don't think you can do it at a very high level for a sustained period of time. And if I had a season where I wasn't riding very well, I think it would then be time to call it a day. Also, the day you get to where you're thinking before you go out to ride a horse, or what if I fall off, or if it crosses your mind that you're being followed by an ambulance and however many jockeys are paralysed every year, then you must bow out.
Do those thoughts hit you?
No, although I'm aware of riders suffering career-ending injuries. Graham Lee was very successful. An Irishman won the Grand National over jumps, won the Ascot Gold Cup on the flat, and he had a simple fall coming out of the stalls at Newcastle a few years ago where the horse stumbled and he broke his neck, and he's paralysed. He's paralysed from the neck down.
Why do you think you don't have those intrusive thoughts?
I suppose I have a strong faith. I really do believe in God, and I think and believe He's looking after me. And you can have bad luck, and that really is the cause of these life-changing injuries. But I believe that I'm safe for the time being.
And do you pray for your safety?
Generally, I don't, and it's a good question. Because up until recently, I didn't pray for sobriety either. I tend to pray for my family and for those less fortunate than I am. I say don't know if we've got many religious listeners, but there's one particular kind of homemade prayer that I say at the end of every evening, and that's pray for Nana and Grandad, all my relations, friends, family, sick, hungry, thirsty, mistreated, homeless, young, old, dead, and misfortunate. I don't usually think about myself.
Where does your faith come from?
My father brought us to Mass every Sunday, or every Sunday we could go, or maybe even Saturday evenings. And, I've had to lean on that faith through the turbulence over the past few years that I've been the root cause of.
And are you very Catholic in that faith? Is it very much about the Pope and about Rome and about the institution, or is it more of a private kind of spirituality?
Both. I would describe myself as a practicing Catholic who probably definitely isn't the perfect student.
If I was to force you to park modesty for a moment, and you were to accept that you're pretty good on your good days, what is it, do you think, that makes you good on a horse?
Well, they're few and far between, but there are days where, I know that I've made the right decisions and I've got the best out of every horse. And you can't pick and choose them. I have the same routine throughout, particularly this season. This is the first full riding season where I haven't picked up a drink in the entirety of it. And the results speak for themselves. It's the highest ever strike rate I've ridden at. It was in 2025. And I don't know, I put all my time and energy and thinking into finding good horses, getting the rides on those horses, and then trying to get the best out of them. And it's all consuming. People ask me what my other interests are. I love show jumping, and I follow the GAA and the soccer and a bit of the rugby. But, during Royal Ascot week and particular stages of the season, nothing enters my head except trying to ride winners.
Getting the best out of a horse, is that relationship for you, maybe it varies between different jockeys and different horses, is that relationship for you one of, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, or is it more of a equal partnership between you and horse?
It's trying to create a relationship. Remember, I'll ride 1,000 different horses every year all over the world. And most of the time I've never ridden them before. So when I walk out to greet the owner or the trainer, or maybe they're not present, I'm always making assessments of that horse, if they're relaxed in the parade ring or if they're on their toes. From the time I get on them, how do they feel? Are they mature? Are they physically immature? If they're 2-year-olds, they're still growing. If they're a little bit keen on the way to post, will they relax in the race? Should I try and make the running lead and see if they'll prick their ears in front? Or should I get cover, park them behind a few horses so they don't have any daylight? I'm making all these judgments and assessments, and the bottom line is I don't really get any instructions from trainers and owners, so it's my responsibility, and I take that responsibility myself on how I ride them. And sometimes I get it right, and often I get it very wrong.
So 1,000 decisions, that's the life of a jockey.
Yeah, but there are many more than that, because in the build-up to a race, I'll have an idea of what I should be doing, what might lead, how much pace is going to be on. On paper, there might be a lot of pace. The stall's open, and the horse I expected to set a good pace misses the break, so now he's last. You're constantly... when you're riding well, you're constantly capable of changing plan and trusting your instinct. When things aren't going so well, if I've been beaten on 5 favourites the day before, I might second guess myself, and all of a sudden my judgment isn't as clinical, and as a result of that, I don't make the same decisions and I don't ride as well.
Yeah. And then on the good days, it's flow.
Yeah, and it's like David Clifford when he's playing for Kerry at his very best. Do you think he even needs to think about, his positioning and where he's going to receive the ball and when he's going to kick a point or when he might make a move into the box to try and score a goal? It all comes very naturally, but I can guarantee you the same for him as it is for me. Some days that's comes very easy, and another day you second guess yourself, and as a result you don't perform as well.
Then the self-loathing, the recrimination begin, and it's a sleepless night.
Yeah, the self-loathing is massive, not only from my lack of success on a particular day in the saddle, but also the amount of destruction I've caused due to my drinking. I realized maybe back in 2016, 2017 that I wasn't drinking like a normal person. And I've had a few periods of sobriety since, some longer than others. And I managed to relapse countless times. And, I talk about that in detail in the book. I managed, fortunately, and thanks to God, during the period of writing the book, I was sober. But I relapsed again at the end of 2024. And all the way through, Christmas and New Year, so we're not even winding the clock back 12 months, I really struggled with drinking. I held on to the idea, Joe, of trying to drink like a normal person, to have a few drinks in the evening and just be sociable. And I failed again, and I had to hand it over. And the step one in A, where you admit that your life is unmanageable, I had to go through all that process again, and combined with crashing a car due to drink driving with a passenger, I embarked on this newest journey since the evening of April 26th, where I've been sober since, and I've been working hard at it, and some days are easier than others, but I think although the book is looking further past that, I think readers will, or listeners, if they listen to the audio, will get an idea to the turbulence that I've caused in my career to date.
I'm going to come to all that. I want to paint a backdrop, though, of your life as a jockey, if I could first.
Yes.
Because you say in this book, the aim is, amongst other things, to give an insight into the life of a jockey. So mission accomplished. It strikes me it's not a life a lot of people would want. And if they did want it, not a lot of people could hack it. So there are a couple of things here which I suppose people are generally aware of when it comes to jockeys. But nonetheless, I sat down and read this book in 2 readings this week. And so almost the relentless intensity of certain things just hit me nonetheless. So your schedule is worth touching on for a moment. You said you can ride 1,000 horses a year. People can do the maths. In effect, you get no off-season, really. Like, to give people an example, for instance, this is 2018, where for 8 days running, you have 6 or 7 rides all over the UK. That involves, obviously, the 6 or 7 rides, hours upon hours in a car. The UK is a big country to drive around. So you do 8 days in a row of that. Then you get in a flight and go to Leopardstown and ride for Willie Mullins. Then you get a flight home back to Oxford and go to bed around midnight. You sleep for 3 hours. Then you get up and you fly to Canada. You spend 5 hours in Canada where you ride 1 race, and then you fly home to England. You get to bed around midnight. Then you get up at dawn. You ride out that morning, and then you have 6 rides at Kempton. And you say at the end of that day, I barely knew where I was. I had nothing left. I had no energy. I had no enthusiasm. I was spent. To be champion jockey, it is a marathon. You say for 6 months, it owns every piece of you. I read this book and I looked at your schedule and I thought, this is insanity. Why?
Well, I'll just give you an example. That weekend, Leopardstown, it was Irish Champion Stakes Day. So for me, it's the highest rated race in Europe normally, that or Juddmonte International. I had 8 stone 5 on Cotai Glory the next day in Canada. So I ride my first winner in Ireland for Willie Mullins. Great. My mother is there. It's a big relief to finally do it. I win the Irish Champion Stakes on Roaring Lion. I'm rushing to get back to the UK because I have to fly from Heathrow the next morning to get to Woodbine, Toronto. I can't eat or drink anything. There was no celebration. I get to Canada, I think I was around 8 stone 9. I have 4 pounds to lose in the sauna to ride a horse. He's actually quite a successful stallion, but he was very difficult to ride. He didn't win. I think he finished 3rd or 4th. I get in a flight back, a little bit deflated by the fact I'd put in all this effort and he didn't win. Arrive home in Lambourne, get up right out the next morning and then go racing. And the issue with all that is if I don't do the riding out, I won't find the stars. And I also enjoy the riding out because, there is a chance that I'll find the next superstar and there's no one watching me in the morning, so I can kind of enjoy, there's no pressure, I can kind of enjoy the process of getting to know that particular horse and the dream begins. Does that make sense? The riding the 6 horses at Kempton, although I didn't win my first Jockey's Championship until 2019, I tried my best in 2018. I finished 2nd, I think, to Sylvester de Souza. All those hours and time spent travelling to and from the races, I'm doing homework. I never have to drive myself. I'm trying to make a plan. Entries are coming out, how I'm going to ride this horse. What horses do I want to ride on this particular day? Speak to my agent, ask him to phone this trainer, this owner. Develop relationships with all these people. And it all comes to nothing at the end of that season if I'm not champion jockey. Why would I ride in more races than anyone else, although I didn't do it this year, but try and ride at a higher strike rate than anyone else? If you don't win the Jockey's Championship, no one cares who finishes 2nd or 3rd. And it's a whole lot of effort. The reward is picking up that jockey trophy, title trophy at the end of the season. Do I get any enjoyment about picking up the trophy? Absolutely not. I don't know why. People ask me, why isn't it, why aren't I full of pride and whatever? I'm incapable of feeling proud of myself. And of course, what hasn't helped in previous years and even this year, what's always fresh in my memory is the destruction I've caused through my drinking, and that is obviously self-loathing and self-hatred, but also maybe the Group 1 winners I left behind, the decisions that weren't so clinical, the rides that I missed because I had to ride certain horses over certain horses due to relationships I have with owners and trainers. It's a very complex life and just life that I live.
The thing that strikes me about it though is you're very self-aware and you're aware of almost the lack of enjoyment that's there. It's not like you're talking 20 years on and saying, God, I wish I'd enjoyed it more in retrospect. In real time, I felt reading the book, listening to you now, I sense somebody who knows that the highs are not euphoric. They're more of relief. Okay, did it, tick. Some good days. There's days where you do say, in the book, for instance, today was a good day. I feel good today. But in the main, it's on to the next thing relentlessly. And you talk about, this desire to win the next race and to be champion jockey as being trapped. You say, I'm stuck in this. Where's the next Group 1 winner going to come from? Where are my competitors? This constant, especially during the teeth of the season, checking where your competitors are, where are they riding, how many clear am I? You say winning is a fleeting relief. There is some peace, losing a nightmare, and it kind of consumes you. You sort of say at one point in 24, the lows are becoming unbearable, a bit like how hangovers get worse the older you get. And at the end of 24, when you're thinking about not going again in 25, which you did, you wake up when the season's over and you're like, I'm unshackled here. I don't need to check what the other jockeys are doing. I actually have like half hour's peace when I wake up here in the morning. So you're caught in this strange, obsessive
is correct, yeah.
Relentless kind of struggle with yourself, with the world.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if I'm 10, 20, 30, 40 clear. until the last few weeks of the season, I never feel I'm safe.
Yeah.
Because you're only a broken collarbone away, or a careless riding or whip suspension away from all that effort you've put in the previous however many months going to waste. And like that whole season for me, if I'm not champion jockey, it's a waste of time.
Why?
You know?
Why?
Because why did I go to Newcastle on a Tuesday evening and ride from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and spend 12 hours in the car?
I take that point. Why go for it? I've won 4, now I've won 5. Are you a happier person with 5 than you were with 4?
No.
Okay. So odds are you won't be happier with 6 than you are with 5. So I suppose, why not ride, not quite for enjoyment, but target the big races and almost target a sense of well-being? I'm taking 3 days off here, and I'm going to pitch up Frankie Dettori style in great form in Newcastle in a few days and give a really good account of myself, as opposed to treadmill.
Yeah, I feel like I have a responsibility to the people that want me to ride their horses to ride them.
Okay.
I think Frankie did it very well. He was able to pick and choose towards the latter end of his career. But I also struggle with my weight. You know, if I'm only riding a couple of days a week, what weight am I going to wake up on a Monday morning? You know, that's at the forefront of my mind. And also, what's important to know, Joe, you can find a special horse on the most random days.
Sure.
You know, I ride a lot of well-bred, very expensive horses. Most of them are slow. You can rock up at Bath on a Tuesday, and that horse might be the horse that leads you to the Breeders' Cup in November.
You're playing the numbers game here too.
Yeah.
I have to. The harder I work, the luckier I'll get.
And that seems to be the way it's been for me.
Okay.
You know, I've been lucky to be retained by lots of big owners, but they can have many lean years between superstar racehorses. I just feel like if I don't work to the extreme like I have been, and I don't get the results, then it's my own fault.
Yeah.
If I put everything into it like I have been doing, then, you know, I've shown I make my own luck to a certain extent.
So on balance, does it make you happy, your career?
I'm certainly more content than I would be if we just take this year. I had 6 Group 1 winners. I don't want to make this conversation into too much racing jargon, but, you know, 1 month after the car crash, I won the Lockinge Stakes for Juddmonte, and John and Thady Gosden. You know, I got particular enjoyment out of that because I had to pick myself up after the accident. I probably wasn't going to receive the same level of support if I hadn't been involved in that incident or caused that incident. And I managed to create some momentum into my season. I had a good Royal Ascot. I had a great York. I had some very bad days in between, but I stayed sober. I finished off the season with a Breeders' Cup win for Donegal O'Brien. I felt like it was a victory for Ireland. You know, you get a lot of Irish people there, and I certainly took some good memories and some pride that I haven't probably discussed in those moments.
Okay, so it is there somewhere.
Yeah, buried. But would I be happy if I went through the season and allowed the carnage I created and the bad press and the negative commentary? If I allowed that to get the better of me, and I hadn't made a success of 2025, I'd be disappointed with myself.
I suppose another way of putting it is, because I wondered about that happiness question. The diary framework is quite interesting because it is that daily thing. And especially when you read the book in a sitting or two, you know, the most used word in that book is lethargic. I feel lethargic today. Today I feel lethargic. By halfway through, I was laughing to myself as I was like, "Today I feel lethargic." I was, no kidding.
Overused.
Yeah, but it was.
It's accurate though.
Yeah, and
I'll tell you why, Joe. I struggle to sleep at night during the season because I'm always thinking about like clashes in entries where a couple of horses are entering the same race. Which one do I have to ride? Or if I have a choice, which one should I ride?
Yeah.
The people I'm letting down by not riding their horses. Horses picking up a cough. Horses picking up injuries.
Yeah. Your mind is racing.
There's no plain sailing.
So would you be a happier person if you were an accountant or a teacher in Killarney?
No, because my life would be absent horses and they've brought every pleasure in my life to date. Okay.
You mentioned weight. That's the other thing. I read your book last night eating a full chocolate bar, I should say, so I felt guilty as I did it. Again, I don't think this is news to anybody listening. This is one of the great cliches, obviously, of being a jockey. But I think reading the book, the relentlessness of it washed over me. You describe a scene in Florida, December, where you pitch up at 9'2", for instance, 9 stone 2. And again, these are all the cliches, but the reality of them, to go through it, is horrendous, I would think. So the sweatsuit goes on. You do 90-minute session in the gym on the treadmill, 90-minute session in the gym on the rower, 90-minute session in the gym on the bike with the sweatsuit. No food, to state the obvious. You do 2 hours in a bath at 40 degrees. You do 2 more hours in the bath at 40 degrees. You jog from your apartment to the racecourse, naturally, in a sweatsuit. You get straight into the sauna. You say, I made weight, but God, I felt awful. So you're 5'6" and reckon you need 2,500 calories. And you're an active 5'6". I mean, you're not sitting in an office like me. You're doing things. And you reckon you're getting about 1,200 on average a day. Even though it is something people are aware of, the reality of it in your life, day to day to day to day to day, I can see why you can't do this into your 50s or 40s. It just must be so difficult and tough on your mood and everything.
Yeah, so I lost 10 pounds to ride in Florida in that 48-hour period. And that isn't uncommon. There are guys, and I don't want to be sexist, but generally girls don't struggle with their weight as much.
Their frames are smaller.
Yeah, but there are guys that are putting themselves through more than I do. Frankie Dettori in the last 5 years has a lower BMI than he had at any other stage of his career. And yes, I'm hungry and I work hard at it, but I can't take any praise for my routine when I look at a fella like him who's won every big race in the world and he's still motivated to torture himself.
And why do you think you will lose that?
That motivation?
Yeah, what you can't. I won't go on as long as him. I know I won't.
I'm very aware of the fact that I've been privileged. Yes, I've put in a lot of work, but I've been privileged to find fast horses every year of my career since 2017. And I'm acutely aware that one day those opportunities aren't going to be available to me, firstly. Secondly, I'm aware that one day I won't be as good as I once was. And thirdly, I'm aware that jockeys wake up one day and they lose their bottle.
Okay.
They start thinking about the injuries and the chances of paralysis and death.
What age do you think that will all hit you at? I
always aim for 30, and I'm 30 now. And I can't really look past 35 now. If I can ride at the same level to 35, then, and I'm in one piece, then I probably should step aside and find something else to do.
You know what will happen then? 35 will feel a whole lot younger than it sounds, and 40 will suddenly seem okay.
Yeah, and if that's the case, great. But I won't, in the meantime, I won't take it for granted.
You're drinking. There's a really interesting line in the book. My addiction to alcohol is about removing myself from reality. My addiction to horses is the opposite. I crave that reality more than anything. Alcohol and escaping reality. What reality are you trying to escape, do you think? I know that's a very complicated question.
It is, but I can answer it. That self-loathing.
Stop on that for a second.
Yeah.
That's a big thing to say. Does that go beyond bad performances as a jockey? Does that go as deep as who I just am as a person?
No, I'm quite happy with the way I generally when I'm sober, with the way I behave towards people and the way I interact. But sometimes I lie in bed and I think, oh, I forgot to ring that person back, and I didn't make an effort to thank that person after I saw them today. And that makes me anxious, and I can lie in bed for hours and I promise myself I won't pick up the phone, but I'm tossing and turning and my mind's racing. Even after the Cartier Awards this week, they were on Wednesday night and it went very well, and I spoke, and I thought I spoke reasonably well, but I was still awake at 5:45 a.m. and
thinking about how you'd performed.
Yeah, and just thinking about things I hadn't done, and am I making use of my, am I making the most of my free time currently? Because in December I'm riding in 3 different countries, Saudi, Hong Kong and Mumbai. I'm not going to have all this free time. I'm going to have, weight is going to be back on my mind. To go back to your question, I caused an awful lot of self-loathing and really self-hatred, to make the point even stronger, due to my drinking, because I would black out most nights. I promised myself I'm not going to drink too much this evening. Sometimes I was successful. More often than not, I wasn't.
And that's a shameful moment when
it's so shameful. And the only way I silenced it, and because I'm tend to be a weak character as well, I silenced it by just blacking out again or drinking to
excess.
Yeah.
You think you're a weak character because you succumb to alcohol?
Yeah, I'm not envious of any sports person or what they achieve in their career or any academics, because I know they've put in a hell of a lot of effort. But there is a bit of envy there, or certainly there was, to the men and women in the world that can have 4 or 5 pints or 3 glasses of wine on a social evening.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to have to work at it and then say that's enough. I had to promise myself that I was going to stop after a couple of drinks. And yes, sometimes I was capable of doing that, but often I wasn't, and I got myself in some terrible situations, terrible. And what's worse than that, I realised during my periods of sobriety since October 2021, that I realised the carnage that I caused, and I kind of enjoyed the brief spells, or some of the brief spells, but I held on to that hope that one day Oisín is going to be able to have a few drinks and go to bed.
And that's kidding yourself, is it?
Completely kidding myself.
So 21, you went over to the UK in 2012 as a teenager and had all the success, and things just flowed for you. Was it, so 19 you won your first title as champion jockey and did the 3 in a row. In that period it has slipped into out of control, the drinking, has it?
Oh yeah.
What age were you when you would honestly say now, oh, that was out of control from that age?
I think actually I did a spell in Hong Kong in 2016 and early 2017, where I developed gout, and I still suffer from it to this day, but not to the same extent, even sober. And that was an alarm bell in my own mind, although I refused to recognize it properly, that I wasn't drinking like a normal person. In 2021, I recognized personally that my drinking was out of control regularly.
What was the nature of your drinking then? Were you a party boy?
No, I would sit at home on the sofa watching Braveheart or Gladiator on repeat.
What would you drink?
Vodka, Belvedere vodka.
Just straight out of the bottle?
No, I used to like the Co-op lemonade, the sugar-free one, and and I'd end up most of the time falling asleep on the sofa. And I had some evenings where I'd only have a few.
And when you're drinking, watching TV, escaping reality, so there's a payoff in life, in everything that we do, I suppose. The payoff for you is it quietens the brain thinking about tomorrow's races, what your competitors are doing. Is it the escape from the obsession with winning? Or what is the payoff when you're pouring that third, fourth, fifth?
Sometimes it didn't quieten my kind of inner psyche, but other times it did.
Okay.
It just became a habit, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what maybe the 4th to the 10th drink brought.
It was a sweet spot.
Yeah, and because I was drinking so much as well, I didn't really suffer from hangovers. What was concerning for me was I may have stopped drinking at midnight or 2 a.m. the night before, but there was no guarantee at 2 p.m. the next day that I was actually sober.
Sure.
And, I thought, and I probably was, compos mentis to a point, but the riding levels is half the drink drive. And having failed the breathalyzer at the races 3 times to date, that was my biggest concern, and maybe if there was no breathalyzer at the races, and maybe if I hadn't crashed a car drunk and hadn't done lots of other stupid things, maybe I'd still be a practicing alcoholic.
Yeah. Your father's an alcoholic, you said. Do you think it's more genetic or circumstantial?
No, I think it just depends on the person. I've never known my father to drink. Him and Aidan O'Brien were very clever, I think, in making me aware of the pitfalls of alcohol. They would give examples of how someone's ruined their life. And it definitely kept me sober in my teens and early 20s. But that devil on my shoulder took over, and I failed to recall those lessons.
Between 21 and 24, you attend counselling twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big undertaking. Counselling can be a draining experience. It's a commendable thing to do. I guess I've had the same thought, and everybody would have had the same thought. So the alcohol is to escape reality. Reality in this instance is that drive to win. Where does that drive to win come from? What childhood trauma, what issue is at the nub of, if there's a kind of a hole or a self-loathing there? I'm sure you've grappled with those questions. Is there something in your past that is a root cause of these issues, do you think?
I've never been asked that question, and I've done thousands of interviews. I was 11 weeks premature. I had speech and language difficulties in primary school. I was well behind everyone else in my class. By the time I got to 5th and 6th class, I had caught up. I found 1st and 2nd and 3rd year very easy of secondary school. I started secondary school at age 11. I got 460 points in my leaving cert. I struggled. The grades that let me down were Irish. I did ordinary level, and I got like a C or something. I put an awful lot of effort, because I enjoyed them, into German, French, business, biology, and geography. I got a B or higher in those 5 higher level subjects. I probably felt as a child that I was maybe up against it, but with hard work and the want, I was able to achieve. Certainly in my race riding career, I realised when I started that I didn't look as good in the saddle as my competitors. You know, when I arrived at Andrew Balding's in October 2012, there were 10 apprentices. I was one of 10. On the mechanical horse in the evenings, I looked the worst on it. You know, my use of the whip wasn't as good as all the others. Yes, I was able to ride at a decent level show jumping, and I was quite content. My mother drove me up and down the country. Ireland is renowned with top class show jumpers. But this is completely different. Riding racehorses is like, I try and describe it. It's as different as playing Gaelic football is to playing soccer.
Sure.
And those ages, you know, from 15 to 18, I'm aware that I'm up against it again, and I've tried to prove a point to myself since then. And you know, there were stages this season, particularly the last 6 weeks of the season, through September and early October, where I rode 3 4-timers, and I felt like I was riding at the highest possible level. They weren't on particularly big days, but I thought I didn't leave anything behind today.
You knew.
I was clinical in my decision making, and my instinct was a bit different to not even the average day, to 99 days out of 100, you know.
I reckon I did the maths. You've probably sat in on probably 500 therapy sessions. So I'm not going to play psychologist in front of you now. It'd be embarrassing for both of us. But I guess if the pattern you just described there, from childhood up against it and struggling with your education and then getting on top of it and being the worst of the 10 horses in Balding's yard and getting on top of it, there's a pattern there of feeling inadequate on some level. That's a broad word, inadequate. And then your route out of that has been hard work.
Hard work and learning and reading.
Yeah. That's not a. If I was looking for the traumatic, terrible kind of childhood, or there's no like smoking gun there.
No, I had a great childhood. My parents were super parents, and I had a very supportive family. You know, my parents and my grandparents in particular, and my uncle Jim Cullity, made me aware that most jockeys don't make it, you know, and most wannabe show jumpers give up on the dream because it doesn't happen for them. But I put everything into it, and you know, I can't blame anyone for my problems with drinking other than myself.
At the end of this book, the end of 2024, you are in a good place. Champion jockey for the 4th time. You're saying, I might not go for it again for a while, but deep down I know I will. It was kind of funny the way you even wrote about it. Like, I'm not going to do it for a while. And then you said, but I'm already thinking about 2025.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship at the time with Lizzie. I know you're no longer not, but still friendly. On your rare day off, you're spending time with your dad. He's not well. There's the schedule. The fasting is tough. But you're in doing the counselling. Like I said, a very commendable thing to do. You're developing coping techniques as best you can with the stresses of life. And you seem like you're in a pretty good place. That was how I judged the end of this book. So when in 25 did it turn? And do you know why it turned into relapse?
Opportunistic drinking. I held on to the idea that one day Oisín's going to drink like a normal person.
Okay.
And
did you share that with your therapist?
No, I lied to my therapist.
Right.
And subsequently had to stop seeing her.
Because you had lied?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Right.
Because, you know, you create a trust there.
Okay.
And I was too embarrassed to let her know that all her hard work, in my opinion, had gone to waste, because I picked up the bottle again. And I drank over Christmas 2024. I blacked out on New Year's Eve into 2025. I had weeks of sobriety, January, February, um, plenty of nights of blacking out. I had started going to AA, I think in February of this year,
Okay.
because I knew that my drinking was out of control again.
Yeah.
Didn't really commit to the program. The first day of Cheltenham Festival this year, I went there as a spectator. Had blacked out the night before. Didn't really sober up through the first day. Woke up the second day at Cheltenham Festival at home, shaking because my body wasn't really acclimatized to the drink like it had been in previous years. Thinking, how am I going to face the world? Full of anxiety. Went to Cheltenham the next 3 days as a spectator, sober. Rode in Saudi. Not the Saudi Cup meeting, a normal King's Cup meeting. Landed in Saudi, like, proud of the way I'd ridden. I say proud, but kind of happy with the way I'd ridden the few days, and decided to land in Heathrow Airport, bring my drivers outside waiting for me, have a quick few pints at the bar, having come through kind of passport control and baggage pickup, and kind of battled with days of sobriety or whatever. Anyway, fast forward to the week before I crashed the car. Very stressed because the Jockey's Championship is about to start. A few of my leading hopes for the year are making their seasonal reappearance. I just won the Guineas Trial on Johnkill, the Greenham Stakes at Newbury, so stressed about him. How is his health leading up to the Guineas? I'm riding Skimmer, a Judmon horse that I think is an absolute machine, at Leicester on the Saturday. Didn't sleep at all on the Friday night. Ride 3 winners at Leicester on the Saturday. Go and meet my cousins for dinner at their local pub restaurant that I'm familiar with. Take the private room because, remember, I'm supposed to be sober. Have a few drinks with them, all fine.
Do they shoot each other glances as you're drinking?
They know I'm not supposed to be drinking, but like anything, it's my choice. You know, they can't stop. If someone's going to drink, you're not going to stop them. You can tell them, oh, is this a good idea? But if they've made their mind up, you know, it's opportunistic drinking for me. And go back to their house, watch the boxing, have a few more drinks, decide to drive home, bearing in mind I'm very welcome to stay there. There's no need for me to drive home, and fall asleep at the wheel and crash the car. And, you know, that could have been curtains. If I killed my passenger, I'd be behind bars now. And I've been given another chance. Why? I don't know. Am I deserving of it? You know, men and women have done far less in their drinking career than I have. And they've had to pay the ultimate price. And yeah, you know. Scary thinking about it, you know. Scary. And I think the first few weeks, you know, I don't know if this is going to help listeners or not, but after a incident like that, it's because you're so full of anxiety and fear, very easy to be sober for the next few weeks and next month after that. But if you do have a drink problem, that little devil that's moved maybe away from your brain can creep back towards you and tell you, oh, it wasn't as bad as you think it was. And old habits can creep in again you know. And it's that first drink where the issue is. Like, it's funny, I'm in Dublin. I could have had a few drinks last night and got away with it. I thought I'd get away with it. I'd only be kidding myself.
Were you tempted?
No.
You're upset there recalling that crash. It's traumatic.
Yeah.
It's traumatic. Did you go racing the next day or two?
No, I was supposed to go racing the next day at Suddle. It was... So this goes to show now how I was an opportunistic drinker. I had decided in my mind the first race wasn't until 3 o'clock. So I had realised that there is absolutely no way I will fail the breathalyzer at 3 o'clock. You know, even in my worst of blackouts, as long as I'd stopped drinking by 3 a.m., I have a reasonably fast metabolism. I would be sober and it's likely, you know, that I'm breathalyzed all the time. It would be likely that I'd be breathalyzed that day. So I had to face the music at Windsor on the Monday. Of course, in the media, it was spread on X or whatever that my passenger was paralysed. And I couldn't retort the statement at the time, but thank God she wasn't.
Okay.
She was fine.
Okay. So
and I was fine.
it wasn't like she was on death's door and you were off racing?
No.
Okay.
You know, and to go into detail about the crash, because I think people will be interested. At that time and currently, I'm tracked by a friend of mine, and it records on an app called Life 360. It records the speed at which I travel and things. And from the time I left my cousin's house until I crashed, my maximum speed was 48 miles an hour, and I actually crashed at 33 miles an hour. But it really makes no difference. The fact that I thought it was a good idea to get behind the wheel, having basically been blacked out drunk, is just mental.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I suspect anyone who relapses just has, I'm speaking the majority of people, sympathy, you know, amongst people. But I would suspect there are a quotient of people if you relapse and get behind a wheel, which is a lethal object and you can kill innocent people. Mm. Sympathy could be in more short supply.
Absolutely.
What has the reaction been in the main since April?
Well, I've tried to just listen to the people who understand it's a terminal illness. You know, there is no cure. If you stop taking your medicine, which is going to AA for me now, I will relapse. It doesn't matter what consequences have come before, you know, the proof is. And I was in a meeting on Monday and 3 people were returning to the programme. 3 had relapsed. And, I think there is nothing but understanding from people who understand the illness. Of course, I have a sober alcoholic father, a sober alcoholic granddad, God rest him, my mother's father. And I didn't understand alcoholism until recent years, although I was suffering from the disease. I did, so I don't really expect anyone else to. You know?
That's fair. Because it's fascinating talking to you. It's very sad talking to you as well, because it is such a difficult thing to live with. Like you got visibly emotional there when you're reliving the car crash. I could see it. You went to a different place. It's painful. And I think the perception from afar could be of someone who's party boy lifestyle, flying here, there, everywhere, special treatment, gets away with it, pays the fine, moves on, doesn't give it a second thought. And I don't see that in you.
No, I mean, I've given it a lot of thought. The thing is with the book, you know, if I was observing Oisín Murphy, I think I would view him in a way that he hasn't appreciated how fortunate he is to, you know, live his dream, all the success that's come with it, all the countries he's been able to visit to do his job. But unfortunately, or maybe it's fortunate, that isn't the reality for me. You know, I'm aware that I'm one of the very lucky people in the world, and I also, like I have been in the past few years, I take full responsibility for all the destruction I've caused.
Yeah, if you use those words a lot: destruction, blame, responsibility, chaos, and about yourself. Where are you in terms of like AA? There are any number of steps, surrendering to a higher power and apologizing to people and making amends and doing all that. Where are you on that journey at the moment?
Step 9 of 12.
Which is?
So I'm basically I've made amends.
And how does one do that?
Oh, you have to write a list of all the people you need to make amends to. And mine was long. And then you have to personally make amends to them. The only kind of stipulation there is if it would cause harm by trying to make amends.
Leave alone.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest step of 9?
Oh, I think step 1. Yeah.
Which is?
Which is admitting that you're powerless over alcohol.
So you have to, once and for all, leave this hidden hope that I can maybe down the line have a bit of a relationship with drink again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you'll relapse?
I don't think any alcoholic can answer that. But I'm making every effort not to relapse. Yeah.
I have friends who've been sober, 2 good friends, 30 years, and they confidently tell me that when people relapse, it's really bad. As in,
it never gets any better.
You relapse hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a scary thing for you, for your family, for people who love you.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen guys as well. There was one particular man, he was kind of a guiding light to me during this phase of sobriety. And he relapsed after 22 years. You know. And it's devastating for him. You know, the consequences of his relapse aren't actually that great. And he's back in recovery and he's doing well. But for him internally, you know, the disappointment in oneself.
Sure, that self-loathing comes up again and all that stuff comes up again.
And we don't want to overuse the word.
No.
But it's the perfect way of describing it.
You're in so many predicaments in a way for all the good things about your life, in that the relentlessness of the schedule and the stress of it. These are kind of maybe not great things when you're trying to stay away from alcohol, like you did at one point describe when you were banned for 14 months, being an easier period to navigate sobriety than when you're dealing with the stresses. So you have that aspect, and you're also a public figure. And it was interesting in the book to read that you're a public figure who does care what people think of you. Some people go through life and just don't care what people think, whereas you will say things like, I often wonder what people think of me when I'm chatting to them. Or you write at one point, this is how sick I am. I'll type my name into Twitter almost daily, almost as much as I look at the Jockey Championship, and I will search for negative comments. I'll go looking to see what people have said. And you talk as well, there's a great passage about how you've to force yourself through a lot of life. If you're in bad form, I force myself to put on a happy mask. I force myself to be upbeat. I force myself to do X. I force myself to do Y, and it's tiring. These are all big things to contend with, big triggers, I would think, for you to contend with. But by the same token, that's not a life you're about to turn your back on. You're going for the championship again next year.
Yeah.
You're a high-functioning man, given the troubles.
Yeah. I've mentioned this before, but for the listeners, this was a very important sentence. I was in a AA meeting in Belgravia, which is a very posh part of London that I wouldn't frequent very much. And there was an Irish guy chairing, and he looked like a film star. So immediately he grabbed my attention because I'm thinking, who's this fella? And the Irish accent. Anyway, he spoke about his drinking career, and he was sober for about 10 years, then he relapsed, and his current sobriety was at about 5 years. And the line that hit home at me was, and I was actually having a particularly shit time. It was probably like 2 months before the August time. Outsider looking in, Oisín Murphy's doing great. He's sober. He won 2 Group 1s York Ebor meeting, but statistically, it wasn't a great month for me. I wasn't winning as many races as, and it's all consuming for me.
I should say to the listener who haven't read the book, this eats you. When your strike rate's down, this is eating you. So sorry.
And I needed to go to a meeting to hear these words. He said, life is still shit, but it'll be an awful lot shitter if I pick up that first drink. And that's not a very eloquent statement, but, you know, I convinced myself that I could silence the inner critic through drinking. And sometimes I was successful and sometimes I wasn't. But I've come to terms that isn't... that I'm only kidding myself believing that.
You've to go. I have 3 last quick questions. 2 of them are connected. 2 of them are about forgiveness. Have you forgiven yourself for the car crash and the destruction? And is it important that you forgive yourself? Do you need to forgive yourself? Or do you see it as, I'm going to hold on to that and beat myself over a stick so I never forget it? Where are you on forgiving yourself?
In part I have, but I think I'll need more time and more sobriety under my belt before I fully come to terms. Remember, I've been 18 months sober before. Now I approach sobriety in a different way, and I definitely held on to the idea of drinking again, which I haven't done now.
Okay.
So this feels like a fresh start.
Of the people that you to make amends to, long list. What's your strike rate of success there, and what's your strike rate of, Oisín, I'm not forgiving you?
No, I think everyone that I've hurt will forgive me, provided I keep doing what I'm doing. You know, the most important people to maybe make that in. The most important people I need to say sorry to. It's not even necessary for me to say sorry. They'll be happy enough with Oisín Murphy being happy and healthy, which includes being sober.
Yeah. So a last one. I'm suddenly very invested in you, having not paid super close attention to flat racing over the last while. And I think a lot of people listening will hope that life is good for you in the years ahead. When we're looking at you, how will we know you're in a good place, do you think, if we're trying to judge you on interviews and you're racing? How will we think, God, yeah, it is going well? Or will it always be impossible for us to know what's going on deep down within you, do you think, based on what we see in public?
Well, if I'm sober, I can be honest. And I suppose I developed kind of a game face to just putting on a brave face that I've had to develop, you know, with dealing with what's going on in the background.
Yeah.
But there's no way of saying other than if I'm able to sit and look you in the eye and actually enjoy having this conversation, then I'll be in a good place. You know, this process of speaking to you hasn't been torture. Whereas if I was drinking and had to hide it or pretend I'm hiding it, then it would be torture. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. our time is up, not to use a therapy expression. Is there anything else you want to say?
It might be a bit cliche, but I really feel a warmth and a deep sense of people wishing me well from the Irish public. I feel less judged by the people of Ireland because I think there's maybe a deeper understanding from the people of my home country than there is the rest of the world. I think I've had a much fair appraisal from the Irish press than whether I wanted it or not, than the outside media.
Okay. I really wish you well.
Thanks, Joe.